The alien academy was silent. Only the humming of glowing screens and the soft scratching of claws, pens, and tools filled the great chamber. Students from 100 different worlds sat together, each species proud, each believing they were the true strength of the galaxy. At the far corner, one small human student sat quietly, his hands folded, his eyes watchful. Most aliens ignored him, for in their minds, humans were weak, fragile, and untested. The hall was shaped like a dome, silver arches curving above them. Holographic lessons danced in the air. Alien instructors lectured in a dozen tongues. Suddenly, the dome shook. A thunderous roar echoed through the walls. The students froze, their colorful eyes wide. The sound was not part of the lesson. It was the sound of a predator. The metallic door at the far side bent inward with a terrible screech. Before anyone could react, it shattered, and a beast stormed into the chamber. Its body was black with thick scales, its claws as long as swords. Drool sizzled as it hit the floor, burning through metal. The beast was bred for war, a nightmare used by certain empires to test young warriors. But no warning had been given. No one was prepared. Panic erupted. A winged alien shrieked and flew toward the ceiling. A scaled student dropped their datapad and scrambled under the desk. Many screamed, many froze. Some reached for weapons but found none. The beast's eyes glowed red as it searched for prey. Then, in one horrifying leap, it landed in the middle of the classroom. Every alien expected death. Their gazes followed its snarl, and then they noticed who stood in front of it. The human. He was not trembling, he was not hiding. He stepped forward, his stance calm. The aliens blinked, confused. For humans were supposed to cower. The beast struck first. Its claw lashed out, air splitting with the force. It aimed directly forward, for the human's chest. The other students gasped. Some even turned away, unwilling to see the fragile creature torn apart. But something happened. Something no alien expected. The human moved. It was not panic, not fear. It was trained precision. His hand shot upward and caught the beast's claw. The hall shook from the impact. Metal desks rattled. Sparks burst from the cracked floor. But the human did not fall. His grip tightened. His muscles flexed. And then, he twisted. The beast screamed. Its massive frame crashed to the ground. In seconds, the predator that terrified a galaxy lay crushed against the floor. Its claw twisted, its head pinned under the human's knee. The silence that followed was heavier than the roar itself. Aliens could not believe what they had seen. Wide eyes glowed across the dome. Some whispered in their own languages. Impossible. A trick. It cannot be. One tall insectoid student hissed, "Humans are weak." Another muttered, "That beast has killed trained warriors." Yet here it lay defeated, and the human had not even broken a sweat. The instructor, an elder reptilian scholar, froze in shock. His crest lifted high, his voice broke as he whispered, "This is not chance." He looked at the human as though seeing him for the first time. The silence grew sharper, cutting into the minds of everyone present. The human released the beast and stood straight, his eyes calm, his face unreadable. He looked at the aliens who still stared at him. For a long moment, no one moved. The scent of fear lingered in the air, but it was not fear of the beast anymore. It was fear of the human. In the shadows of the dome, hidden recorders blinked red. The incident was already being transmitted to higher authorities. Files would be opened. Questions would be asked. For this simple student had just shaken the belief of an entire galaxy. The beast gave one last groan, then went silent. Its body lay broken, its threat ended, but the true danger had only just begun. The aliens realized it as they looked at the human standing alone in the wreckage, calm, silent, and unafraid. And in that moment, a thought spread like wildfire through every alien mind present. If a single human student can crush such a beast, what else can humanity do? The beast's body lay broken on the floor, smoke rising from the cracks it had left in the academy tiles. The silence in the great dome was unbearable. Dozens of alien students sat frozen in their seats, eyes wide, wings trembling, tails twitching. None of them could explain what they had just seen. A predator bred for war, a monster feared even by soldiers, had been crushed in seconds by the smallest student in the chamber, a human. The alien instructor's throat pulsed with disbelief. He had taught warriors for centuries. seen champions from many species rise, but never had he witnessed such raw, terrifying power come from what was supposed to be the weakest race in the galaxy. The human stood calmly. His breathing was steady, his hands relaxed. He did not raise them to cheer, he did not shout in triumph, he simply stepped back as if nothing had happened. This calm frightened the aliens even more than the fight itself. From the back rows, whispers began to spread. "Did you see his eyes?" hissed a scaled student with sharp fangs. "They did not even blink." "That was not possible," muttered a feathered alien, her wings shivering. "The beast's hide resists plasma fire, yet a human crushed it with bare hands." "Humans. They are dangerous," another voice whispered. "Too dangerous." Every whisper carried weight. Fear turned into something sharper, uncertainty, suspicion. A few of the braver students looked at the human with narrowed eyes, as though he had betrayed some seed. Kret, as though he had revealed a weapon hidden inside flesh and bone. The instructor finally spoke, his voice trembling like cracking stone. "Class dismissed." His claws tapped the control panel, but his eyes never left the human. "Leave. Now." Chairs scraped, wings fluttered, tails whipped the air. The students hurried to the exits, but their eyes never left the human as they passed him. They gave him wide space, as if standing too close might ignite something deadly. The human did not move at first. He stood alone, looking at the broken beast one last time. Then, silently, he picked up his datapad and walked out of the dome as if nothing unusual had happened. But it was not nothing. Across the academy, alarms were already sounding quietly, unseen by the students. Hidden recorders played the fight again and again, every detail analyzed, every frame stored. In the high towers above the academy, alien instructors gathered in secret. "Impossible," one growled. "Humans are not bred for war." "And yet, one human destroyed a beast we only unleash on soldiers," hissed another. "We must report this." "Report, yes," an insectoid elder tapped his claws together. "But also, test. We must see the limits of this creature. Humans cannot be what we just witnessed." Meanwhile, in the academy corridors, the human walked in silence. His classmates whispered behind him. Some feared him, others stared with curiosity, a few with envy, but one thing bound them all. None dared approach. The human's steps echoed alone, yet inside his thoughts were not calm. His hands trembled slightly once out of sight, not from fear of the beast, but from what his action had revealed. He knew eyes were watching now, not just his classmates, but something far higher. He remembered Earth, its burning skies, its endless predators, the way survival was never guaranteed. He remembered the cold rivers, the hunger, the storms. He remembered the words of his father. "If you want to live, you must be stronger than anything that hunts you." On Earth, everything hunted. Humans had been prey, until they learned to become predators. He clenched his fist. The beast he had crushed today was not the strongest he had faced, not even close. The aliens thought him a miracle, but to him, it had only been practice. At that same moment, in a council chamber far above, alien voices echoed across a grand table. Stars shimmered outside the wide glass as they debated. If humans can do this as students, what will their armies do when they are grown? Perhaps it was a trick. No, the recordings do not lie. Then we must prepare. Either they become our greatest allies, or our greatest threat. The chamber fell silent, and then one elder leaned forward, his eyes glowing cold. "Prepare a trial. Bring forth something greater. We must see what a human truly is." Back in his quarters, the human student sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the night sky beyond the academy dome. He knew it was not over. He could feel it. The aliens were afraid, and fear always demanded answers, always demanded tests. Somewhere deep inside, he welcomed it. For he had been waiting his whole life, not to prove himself to humans, but to show the galaxy what humanity truly was, and the galaxy was about to learn. The academy halls were no longer the same after the beast attack. Students walked in groups, whispering in low voices. Whenever the human entered a chamber, silence followed him like a shadow. No one dared to meet his eyes for long. They looked away quickly, as if afraid he could read their thoughts. The human noticed. He could feel the weight of their stares, but he said nothing. His steps were steady, his face calm. Inside, however, he knew the danger was growing. He had shown too much. He had revealed what should have remained hidden above the academy. In the council tower, the instructors and observers replayed the battle again and again. The image of the human pinning the beast with one knee filled the hollow screens. Alien scholars debated with voices sharp as blades. "This cannot be dismissed," one declared. "If one human student can do this, what would a battalion do?" Or worse, another hissed. "What if they have been hiding their true strength all along?" "Impossible," countered a gray-feathered elder. "Humans are newcomers. They have no great fleets, no ancient weapons. But they have themselves," whispered the reptilian master. "That may be enough." They decided to investigate. Files were pulled from archives. Reports on Earth scrolled across the screens. Harsh climates, violent predators, endless wars. Each fact made the chamber colder. The more they read, the more they understood. The human's victory was no accident. It was nature. Back in the dormitory, the human sat alone at his desk. His datapad flickered with unfinished lessons, but his eyes were on the small surveillance drone hovering just outside his window. He did not need to see it clearly to know. He could feel the gaze. They were watching. He let them. He had nothing to hide, not yet. In the cafeteria, alien students avoided the table where the human sat. They whispered from across the room, "Did you hear the council is sending watchers? They fear him. They should fear." But not every alien looked with fear. A few looked with something else: curiosity, hope, envy. A tall insectoid leaned close to his companion and clicked his mandibles. "If humans are this strong, maybe the galaxy needs them." That night, alarms rang through the academy once more, but softer, not for the students. The instructors had called the human into a chamber. The walls were dark, glowing runes marked the floor. At the center stood the head instructor, his scales gleaming. "You are to be tested," he said. His voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed unease. "We must understand what you are." The human did not flinch. He gave a small nod. "I am ready." The academy buzzed with tension after the second trial. Broken machines lay scattered in the memory of every student who had watched. They could not forget the sight of a human, bare-handed, tearing through metal like paper. Whispers spread through corridors, into classrooms, into private channels. The word human no longer meant weak. It meant danger. It meant unknown. But in the highest chamber of the council tower, the whispers were darker. A meeting had been called. Elders of many species gathered around a glowing table. The human's image flickered in the air above them, replaying the battles frame by frame. "This is no ordinary student," one hissed, mandibles clicking. "He is trained," another growled. "No one moves like that without years of preparation." "He is not alone," whispered a feathered elder. "There may be more, hidden, waiting." The reptilian master raised a claw. "Then we must learn the truth of their world. We must know what Earth hides." Files were opened, ancient reports dragged from dusty archives. Holograms lit up the chamber, showing storms tearing across continents, oceans filled with predators, jungles dripping with venom, creatures larger than ships, teeth sharper than alloy, volcanoes spewing fire across villages, images of humans climbing mountains, crossing deserts, building cities under constant danger. Death world, the word spread across the chamber, hushed and heavy. Earth was no paradise. It was a crucible. Every day, its children fought against nature itself. To survive, they're meant to be forged in fire and ice. Where others saw despair, humans built strength. The counselors looked at each other, unease written in every face. "They were never weak," one admitted slowly. "We were blind. Their fragility is only on the surface." Meanwhile, the human student sat in his small room, unaware of the files being opened in secrecy. Ambers, or perhaps he was not unaware. His gaze was distant. His mind drifted to memories carved deep in his bones. He remembered the forests, dark and endless, where predators waited behind every tree. He remembered running as a child, heart pounding, carrying a sharpened stick while shadows moved through the branches. He remembered nights of cold hunger, staring at the stars while storms howled across the land. But he also remembered voices, his mother's soft tone. "Do not fear the night. It is ours to conquer. His father's stern words, "The world will not spare you, so you must not spare it." Those lessons shaped him, lessons no alien could understand, for on Earth, fear was not a stranger. It was family, and to survive, one had to grow stronger than fear itself. The human clenched his fists. The academy tests had only shown a fraction of what he was, a fragment of what every human carried inside. He knew the council feared him now. He could feel the eyes on him at all times, drones humming outside his window, whispers trailing behind him in the halls. But he did not hate it. No, deep inside he welcomed it. For Earth had given him a gift: endurance, resilience, willpower. And soon the galaxy would see it in full. Back in the council chamber, debate grew heated. Do we control them, one elder demanded. Do we chain them before they rise? Or do we ally with them? Countered another. A force like this could turn the tide of wars. Humanity could be a shield. The reptilian master narrowed his glowing eyes. A shield or a sword? Either way, the galaxy will bleed. It was then that a new voice entered the chamber. A shadowed figure draped in silver cloth. His words chilled the room. Do not waste time debating. The war is already coming, and when it arrives, the humans will not ask for permission. They will take their place, with or without us. Silence followed. The elders exchanged uneasy glances, for the shadowed figure was right. The signs of war stirred across the stars. Armies moved, fleets gathered, old enemies sharpened their blades, and into this storm stood one human student whose very presence had shaken their order. That night, while others whispered and feared, the human stood on the balcony of the Academy dome, gazing at the stars. He could almost hear Earth calling, reminding him of storms and fire, of trials faced and conquered. His voice was low but firm. They think this is about me, he murmured. But it is about all of us, every human, every survivor of Earth. And deep inside, he knew the truth. This was not the end of his trials. It was only the beginning. The galaxy had just opened its eyes to humanity, and what it saw terrified it. But soon, terror would no longer be enough. For the galaxy would learn that humans were not simply survivors, they were conquerors of fear itself. The Academy slept, but the Council did not. High above the shining towers, in a chamber guarded by soldiers, the elders of many worlds gathered. The image of the human filled the center of the room, frozen in the moment. He crushed the mechanical drones. No one spoke at first. The silence was heavy, as if every word carried the weight of entire empires. Finally, the insectoid elder clicked his mandibles, his voice sharp. This student is not just a boy, he is a weapon. The feathered elder leaned forward, wings trembling. And weapons are made for war, do not pretend otherwise. A reptilian scholar hissed, his eyes glowing yellow. Then we must ask ourselves, do we chain this weapon or do we point it at our enemies? The chamber erupted, voices clashed. Some demanded control, others warned of danger. A few spoke of alliance, but most spoke of fear. Fear that humans were not what the galaxy believed them to be. Fear that humanity had hidden its true face for centuries. One elder slammed his claws against the table. We were blind. Earth is no weak world. It is a crucible. It creates predators, and this human is proof. But proof of what? Another asked coldly. That they can fight, yes. But can they be trusted? The insectoid elder leaned back, mandibles tapping. No, trust is a luxury. What we must know is their limit. The word hung in the air. Limit. Plans formed quickly. Secret orders passed. Dossiers opened. They would push the human further, not just against beasts or drones, but against something greater, something designed to break even the strongest, yet not all were united. In the corner of the chamber, an ancient elder, older than all the rest, spoke softly. His voice cracked with age but carried weight beyond armies. You fear them because you do not understand them. You see only power, but power alone is not what makes them dangerous. The others turned to him, waiting. They are dangerous, he continued, because they endure, because they rise again when they should fall, because when all hope dies, humans do not. That is what you should fear. The chamber grew colder. The elders exchanged uneasy glances, and though no one said it aloud, they all felt the same truth. This was only one human. And if one could do this, what would 1,000 do? What would 1,000,000 do? Meanwhile, back at the academy, the human sat alone in his quarters. His datapad glowed, lessons unread, his thoughts were elsewhere. He knew he was being watched. He knew the council debated his fate even now. He could almost feel their eyes through the walls, but he was not afraid. He had lived with worse. Earth had taught him long ago that fear was useless, that only will mattered. His body bore the scars of forests, deserts, storms. His mind bore the scars of hunger and loss. Compared to that, alien suspicion was nothing. Yet he also knew something else. He was no longer just a student, he was a symbol. Every whisper in the academy halls carried his name. Every alien who looked at him saw either a threat or a savior. He had become the center of something far larger than himself. That night, as he looked at the stars, he remembered his father's words. The galaxy does not care if you are ready. It will test you anyway, so you must always be ready. He clenched his fists. His father had been right. The test was coming. He could feel it. And he was not wrong. In the council chamber, the final decision was made. The insectoid elder hissed, "Send it." The reptilian scholar nodded slowly. "Release the greater beast." A heavy silence followed. The greater beast was no simple predator. It was a weapon of war, created for battlefields. Its name alone brought fear to soldiers across the stars. Entire units had fallen to it, and now it would be unleashed on a single human student. "Let us see," the feathered elder whispered, "if humanity truly has no limits." The decision echoed through the chamber, a choice born of fear, a choice that would change the galaxy forever. For in testing one human, they were about to awaken the truth of all humanity. And in his quiet room, the human raised his eyes to the night, whispering to himself, "Whatever they send, I will not fall. Not here. Not ever." Because he knew something the council did not. The real beast was not outside. The real beast was within him, forged by Earth, waiting to be unleashed. The sky above the academy burned red that morning. A storm of energy rolled across the shields. Students whispered in the halls, unaware of what the council had planned. Rumors spread quickly. Another test. Something bigger. They want to see the human bleed. The human felt it too. He walked calmly through the corridors, his face unreadable, but deep. Inside his chest, his pulse was steady. He had lived too long with storms on Earth to fear one more. He knew something was coming, something worse than drones or beasts. The summons came at dawn. Guards in heavy armor appeared at his door. Their voices were flat. "The council requests your presence." He followed without hesitation, his steps silent against the shining floor. They led him to a massive chamber, larger than any before. The walls were reinforced with thick alloy. Runes glowed across the surface. Above, high balconies were filled with alien observers. Students, soldiers, scholars, and council elders all gathered. Every eye locked onto one figure, the human. The instructor stepped forward, his voice carried through hidden amplifiers. "Today, you will face a trial unlike before, a trial to test the truth of what you are." The floor rumbled. With a deep metallic groan, the gates opened. From the darkness inside came the sound of chains breaking, then a roar, so deep it shook the bones of every living being present. The greater beast emerged. Its body towered 3 times higher than the human. Its hide was plated with natural armor, thick as starship hulls. Spikes lined its spine, glowing with heat. Its jaws dripped with acid, each drop burning through metal. Its eyes locked onto the human with primal hunger. The crowd gasped. Some leaned back in fear, even from the safety of the balconies. Whispers spread like wildfire. "Impossible. No student survives this. Even armies fall to such a creature." But the human did not flinch. He stepped forward into the circle, his gaze fixed on the monster, his breathing calm, his hands loose at his sides. To the crowd, it looked like madness. To him, it was survival, just as it had always been. The beast struck first. Its claws slammed into the ground, the floor cracked. The shockwave sent debris flying. The human moved, quick as lightning, rolling under the strike. His feet carried him closer, his body flowing like water. He struck at the beast's leg, his fist connected with bone and scale. The impact echoed, the beast roared, staggering slightly, but it did not fall. Its tail whipped around faster than thunder. The human flew backwards, smashing against the alloy wall. Dust filled the air. Gasps erupted from the balconies. "He is finished," someone hissed. But the human stood, blood on his lip, his eyes sharp. He wiped it away calmly and stepped forward again. The beast came with fury. Its jaws snapped, acid dripping, its claws slashed, carving the floor. The human dodged, struck, rolled, his movements too fast for the crowd to follow. He was a blur of survival, of instinct, of training written into his bones. But the greater beast was no simple predator. It adapted, it learned. With every strike it grew faster, sharper. The human's chest rose and fell. His arms burned. Bruises spread across his body. Still he did not stop. Still he pressed forward. At last, the beast pinned him, its massive claw pressed against his chest, pressing him to the ground. The crowd leaned in, hearts pounding. The counselors whispered, now we see the limit." The human's eyes burned, not with fear, but with something deeper, something the beast and the aliens could not understand. His lips moved, whispering words only he could hear. Not yet. With a sudden surge, he twisted. His body moved with desperate strength. His hand drove upward, his fingers finding the soft gap beneath the beast's jaw. He pushed with all the force Earth had ever given him, all the storms, all the predators, all the hunger and fire. The greater beast screamed, its head jerked back, its jaw shattered, its massive frame stumbled. The human rolled free, blood pouring down his arms. He rose again, limping, broken but unyielding, and then he charged. He leapt onto the beast's back, his fists pounding again and again. Every strike echoed through the chamber. Bones cracked, scales shattered. The beast thrashed, but the human held on, refusing to let go, refusing to fall. At last, with one final roar, the greater beast collapsed, shaking the chamber with its fall. Dust filled the air, silence followed, and when the dust cleared, the human stood upon the beast's broken body, chest heaving, bloodied, but still alive. His eyes lifted to the council balcony, calm, unbroken. The chamber was silent, then filled with whispers, fear, awe, disbelief. Some shouted, impossible. Others whispered, invincible. But one truth filled every heart that witnessed. This was no ordinary species. The counselors sat frozen. They had hoped to find the human's limit. Instead, they had revealed something terrifying. There was no limit. The human looked at them, his voice steady though his body shook. "Is this what you fear?" he asked. "Then fear it well, because this is only the beginning." The greater beast lay silent, its massive body sprawled across the chamber floor. Smoke rose from its shattered jaws, pools of acid burned holes into the alloy beneath. Around it stood silence, an endless silence heavier than war drums. Every alien in the balconies leaned forward, unable to breathe, unable to think. They had witnessed the impossible, twice before they thought the human would fall, and twice he had risen. But this time had been different. This time he had faced the weapon of armies, and he still stood. The human's chest heaved, his arms torn, his body trembling with exhaustion. Yet his eyes burned bright, steady. He stood upon the beast's broken back and looked not at the crowd but directly at the counselors above. His voice was low, but it carried through every speaker, every ear. "You wanted to see my limits," he said. "Now you know. We do not stop, we do not surrender. Not on Earth, not here, not anywhere." The word struck harder than any fist. The students in the balconies whispered among themselves, some with fear, some with awe. "Not human," a scaled alien muttered. "Something more." "No," a winged student whispered back. "Something we need." The council chamber above was chaos. Elders shouted, their voices sharp. Some demanded immediate control. Others spoke of alliance. Others wanted war. The image of the human crushing the greater beast replayed on their screens again and again, as if to remind them of the choice they now faced. The insectoid elder hissed, "If one human can do this, what will their armies do? What will happen when they march with fleets?" The reptilian master growled, "Then perhaps it is wiser to stand with them, for if we stand against them, the galaxy will burn." The debate raged, but in every voice there was the same undercurrent. Fear. The human had shown them a truth they could no longer deny. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was something else entirely. And outside the academy, beyond the tower, beyond the planet itself, news spread. Across star systems, across fleets, across empires, whispers turned into storms. A human crushed the greater beast. A human student defeated what our armies could not. The galaxy has changed. In the far corners of space, soldiers listened and clenched their weapons tighter. Leaders gathered in secret. Some feared, some plotted, some dreamed, but all now spoke the same name, human. Back in the academy, the human walked slowly to his quarters, his steps heavy but unbroken. Students moved aside as he passed. They no longer looked at him as weak nor even as equal. They looked at him as something else, a force, a storm wrapped in flesh. Inside his room, he sat by the window, staring at the stars. His body ached, scars burned, but his mind was clear. He thought of Earth, of his opal, of storms and predators, of endless battles fought by generations. And he whispered softly, "They will never understand, but they will learn." Because he knew what the council still debated, what the galaxy still feared. Humanity was not dangerous because of strength alone. It was dangerous because of will. Because when others surrendered, humans endured. When others broke, humans rose. When others fell silent, humans shouted louder, and that truth could not be caged. In the council tower, the ancient elder spoke again, his voice calm. "You have seen the beast defeated, but the true beast is not what he fought. The true beast is humanity itself, for they cannot be broken." The others fell silent. His words echoed into the future. For across the galaxy, whispers grew into prophecy. They said a single human had stood against the beast and triumphed. They said humanity would rise, not as servants, not as prey, but as a force that would shape destiny itself. And in the dark corners of the stars, enemies prepared, allies watched. The galaxy shifted, but for the human student, it was simple. He did not see himself as legend. He did not see himself as savior. He saw only the truth of his people, and he knew the galaxy would see it too. One day soon they would face wars greater than beasts, storms greater than fire, and on that day, the galaxy would remember this moment. The moment a single human stood alone against the impossible and did not fall, the moment humanity proved there were no limits.